teen media, and I'm excited to be here with Logan Levkoff, sexuality educator and co-author of Got Teen. Hi, Logan. We're excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So my first question for you is, as parents, we know we're supposed to be having all these conversations about sexuality, but not all of us are comfortable with that. So we're charged with something to do, and yet we don't have the toolkit to do it. What do you suggest?
Well, I think the first is to throw out any preconceived notions that you have of a toolkit to begin with. I think we live in this world where we have all of these alarmist headlines and all of these on-air shrinks that are telling us, you know, the myriad of ways we can mess up our children. And I think the first thing we need to do is get rid of all of that. We need to start trusting our gut and knowing that operating on instinct, doing what we really know is best, is the best sort of mantra to start with. And this idea that, you know what, there is no one right way to have any of these conversations. You know, there are little discussions that take place over a long period of time, and if you think you've done something wrong, admit to your kids that you're human and say, you know what, I think I gave you information that I'm not sure I should have given you. Let's sort of rewind. And I think it makes us look human. And I think it takes away this idea that there is one way to do it and do it well. There's just no such thing.
That's excellent. What a relief. So then if our audience is primarily tween-teen, parents of tweens and teens, do you have any kind of suggestion for a timeline of great topics to address?
Yes, I'm not a big believer in this idea of being age appropriate. I think that sort of becomes a crutch for a reason why we don't talk to our kids about certain things. We say, oh, they're not ready for it. They're not at that age. But the truth is the world that they live in is pretty savvy. It's fairly sophisticated. It's chock full of lots of information that we may or may not have gotten when we were their age. So I think that we have to remember that our kids are capable of hearing a lot of information, even if you know, we don't think they are the right age. For example, there is no reason why before they start puberty they can't know about sort of traditional sexual reproduction. In fact, before they start developing, they should know about all of the changes that are going to take place in their body and in someone else's body. And the follow-up conversation to that is, you know, why do we produce sperm? Why are we releasing eggs? Because at some point you might choose to become pregnant, and this is one of the ways it happens. Giving our kids information is actually fairly empowering. It doesn't encourage them to do anything earlier. And research has told us that time and time again.
Okay, that's interesting because I think we all are under that impression that if we open up an idea, they'll run with it.
Yes, and I will tell you that my kids, I have a 9-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter, and there is no doubt that they are total sex ed guinea pigs, having me as a parent. I think they would probably tell you that too. And we've always had these conversations as, you know, as early as age 4 when they asked about things like how babies were made, and it just becomes another really basic set of information that they have that they file away, and it's not a big deal. They know that if they have a question, they can ask about it. And it also has set them up so that when other people around them sort of freak out about certain words like sex, they don't make a big deal. They say, yeah, okay, and that's, you know, that's a word, and we have these body parts, and it doesn't become so taboo because it's been set up as just another important conversation that you have with the people who love you.
So someone's listening to this, and they didn't have those earlier conversations because they just never got around to it because it just doesn't seem like that much fun, right, or they weren't comfortable. So here they are, they're sitting with an 11-year-old, let's say, and they haven't had those 4-year-old conversations. What's a good way to start at this point?
Well, first of all, let me just say most people haven't had those conversations at the age of 4, right? I mean, not everyone is trained to be a parent who talks about sex for a living. So that's the first thing to acknowledge. But I think that this coming to our children as human beings and not just as the sort of disciplinarian is really important. And to sit down with your 11-year-old and say, you know, I want to have a conversation with you about something that I feel like maybe we should have talked about earlier, and maybe you know something about it, but I'm your parent, and part of my responsibility is having conversations with you about your body and about sex and sexuality. So if I haven't done it before and you know things, I'm sorry about that, but let's start again now. And I think that makes us seem far more accessible than just the parent who has the one conversation and talks at them. This sets it up for us to have a conversation where we listen, we talk, we listen, we talk, there's back and forth, and then we can give information and our values, which really is parents, that's what we want. We want to be fact-based, but we also want to tell our children what our belief systems are about these issues.
That's great. That's really helpful. And I have one last question for you for today. And that is, as our kids get older and they start with sexual experimentation in relationships or outside of relationships in this hookup world, what's our right as a parent to know that information? Should we? Is it their space?
Really, really good question, and not an easy question, a fairly nuanced question. So I think the first is basically to acknowledge what you said, which is that experimentation is a part of adolescence. Right? I mean, I think we tend to forget that how important figuring out our sexuality was as we grew up, and sort of how tumultuous those feelings were, but really we wouldn't be the people we are today without those experiences growing up. So this idea that all adolescent experimentation is bad is really foreign to me and quite untrue. So, our kids are entitled to have their own experiences. We don't have a right to be that intimately involved with their experiences, and also we don't, as parents, really want to be that intimately involved. We don't want to know every little thing that they're doing and how they're doing it. But we do want to be the type of parent who says, you're going to make decisions in your life, and if you have questions or concerns, please know that I am here to help you navigate those times, right? So, I've always said with respect to condoms per se, I mean, we should be the ones to teach our children how to use condoms. It's an important skill to have. They need to have it no matter what their gender or sexual orientation is. It's just an important skill. Now, do I believe that parents should be providing condoms to their kids all of the time? No. Because I don't think we should be that intimately involved, and I think that if we've done our job as parents, then we've empowered them to go out and do it on their own. So it's not a simple answer, but I do think once we lay the groundwork for having these conversations, it makes it much easier for our kids to come to us as issues do emerge.
Well, thank you so much. This was so helpful, and again, Logan Levkoff, co-author of Got Teens, and I encourage all of you to go out and get her book. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan.